Hi, everyone. Welcome to Leisrealtalk. It's the start of another week. I hope your week is good so far. Yes? Can everyone hear me? Okay. All right. Wow. Good. Well, thank you. Okay, let's get started. What a topic we have ahead of us. uh, all right. Okay. Who controls Xi Jinping? Wow. Okay. So let's just recap a little bit on we have been discussing Xi Jinping's predicament since last fall. Since the CCP's third plenum last July, persistent rumors about Xi Jinping's health have circulated. The most widespread claims suggest that he suffered a stroke on the first day of the conference, leading to Zhang Youxia and certain party elders seizing control of the party. Since then, we've observed Xi's diminishing military authority, his weakening power within the party, and a noticeable shift in state propaganda embellishing his image. Yet she continues to appear as the leader, attending key events and issuing directives. This has led many observers like myself to conclude that despite the setback he suffered last summer, she remains the most powerful political figure in China. However, according to a reputable political commentator's source in Beijing, this is nothing more than a carefully crafted illusion. In reality, Xi Jinping's time is limited, and behind the scenes, in a lack of a better term, what I call a deep state within the CCP is pulling the strings, preparing for his eventual exit. This bombshell revelation has triggered widespread speculation and debate. So tonight, let's go over what it is. Before I discuss who is controlling Xi Jinping, let's first answer a critical question. That is Xi Jinping still controlling the PLA? And then we'll go over the bombshell revelation of Xi Jinping's current status. Last but not least, we'll address who controls Xi Jinping. So first things first, is Xi Jinping still in control of the military? Well, his true level of control depends on whether he still commands military power. Over the past 8 months, at least 7 major signs suggest that his authority over the military has been severely weakened. So let me go over the 7 events or signals. First is the revision of key regulations that has dropped Xi Jinping narratives in official language. So let me tell you what it is. The Central Military Commission recently issued updated versions of several crucial documents, including inspection work regulations, internal affairs regulations, disciplinary regulations, and formation regulations. These updates typically involve important modifications. Compared with the previous version, which was published 7 years ago, the new version replaced Xi Jinping's chairman command system with a collective leadership and emphasized rule of law in place of political purging. So these are significant changes. Right? So the PLA no longer emphasizes Xi Jinping's command system. Instead, it's emphasizing collective leadership, a team leadership. And instead of focusing on political purging, it wants to focus or base its personnel changes on rule of law. That's signal number 1. Signal number 2 is challenges to Xi's supreme status in military media reports. So following rumors of Xi's severe illness last July, I shouldn't say severe illness, I should say his sudden onset of illness last summer, military media reports have consistently published articles highlighting the principle of collective leadership and challenged Xi Jinping's supreme status. For example, an article published on August the 10th last year focused on democratic decision-making, particularly in military affairs. At that time, when the article was published, the whole Chinese military was distributing a democratic centralism reader to all of its servicemen. Recently, a female major general published an article challenging CMC leadership style. So this type of articles have been consistent in the past 8 months. Sign number 3, shift in loyalty rhetoric post the political work conference in June. So after a military political work conference led by Xi Jinping in Yan'an last June, where she reiterated the importance of loyalty and addressed PLA's root problem of thoughts. Listen to that, root problem of thoughts. Initial military responses through its official reports and announcements aligned with Xi's directives. However, subsequent statements toward the end of July, including those from important military units such as the Beijing garrison and then the 81st Army guarding the 81st Army, which is the unit that guards Beijing, shifted focus on minor details of the work conference and avoided making expressions of loyalty to Xi. The official statements issued after the third plenum from the military branches also avoided embellishing Xi Jinping. Sign number 4, decrease in Xi's visibility at the New Year performance event, which just happened in January. During a New Year performance by the Central Military Commission on January 17th, Xi Jinping's appearances in close-up shots were significantly reduced compared to previous year, compared to the state media's coverage from previous years. With his expressions reflecting fatigue and unhappiness, while Zhang Youxia, his vice chairman, remained cheerful and relaxed. And the New Year's performance centered around allegiance to the party and service to the military and soldiers. This is also a change. This theme is a change from the previous year's focus on Xi Jinping's military and cultural ideologies. Sign number 5, downfall of Xi's most trusted allies. You've already heard about this. Notably, last November, Miao Hua, a CMC member and the head of its political work department, was dismissed, alongside rumors of investigations into other key Xi Jinping-aligned figures, such as the political commissar of the army, General Qin Shutong, and the commander of the armed police force, Wang Chunning. This suggests a significant blow to Xi Jinping's influence in the military. Sign number 6, Xi's absence from crucial military gatherings. He did not participate in critical military meetings such as the theoretical work conference held in October, which was chaired by Zhang Youxia, nor did he inspect his direct loyal troops or meet with his loyalists based in Fujian during trips to southern China. This suggests restrictions on his military movements. Sign number 7, international engagements with Vice Chairman Zhang Youxia. In late August last year, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan explicitly requested meeting with Zhang Youxia during a visit to Beijing, and Zhang received an exceptionally high-profile reception in Vietnam in October, signaling international recognition of the internal shifts within the Chinese PLA. So these 7 signs can fully explain that Xi has indeed been sidelined in military affairs, because previously these events or these signs would not be possible. Xi Jinping would not tolerate any of them, but they're happening. Not 1, not 2, but a whole bunch of them. So because of this, people say Xi's power within the within the military has been significantly weakened. Now, this claim is confirmed recently by a bombshell disclosure. So now let me tell you what this disclosure is. So on February 23rd, which was only 2 days ago, let me show you. This is here's Mr. Cai Shengkun, who is a reliable source for for disclosure of CCP politics, because he has good connections in China. And so it was 2 days ago. He disclosed the downfall of. Oh, by the way, let me tell you a little bit who Mr. Cai is. So Mr. Cai has previously made several accurate predictions of the downfall of PLA and CCP leaders. For example, he disclosed the downfall of former Defense Minister Li Shangfu. Okay, so yet 2 days ago, Mr. Cai stated in his YouTube channel that he received a call from a close friend in China the day before. And they had an in-depth conversation that lasted 1.5 hours. Mr. Cai said they've known each other for a long time. And this friend did most of the talking, and he listened. This friend, he said, in Beijing has a certain level of influence in China and maintains close connections with past and current leaders, and are especially close with the families of former leaders. Okay, and Mr. Cai said he was one of those. Okay, so Mr. Cai said he himself used to believe that Xi Jinping's power in the party couldn't be shaken. Right? He was one of those people who, I mean, I held that view too. We thought that, well, his power has been weakened, but there's no one currently who could challenge him. So we believe that he's still the most powerful politician or leader in China. However, Mr. Cai said his friend from Beijing painted him a shocking picture. And that is, Xi Jinping's power had been significantly weakened since the PLA's All-Army Political Work Conference in Yan'an last June. And he said, now for Xi Jinping, stepping down is merely a matter of time, as they are waiting for an official announcement, which will not take too long. As many people have speculated, this could happen at the party's fourth plenary session, the fourth plenum, which is delayed and it's yet to be scheduled. He said the announcement at the latest will be the end of the year. And Xi is left with only the ceremonial role of state president and party leader to maintain the image of a status quo, to prevent political turmoil in China. And this friend of his claimed that the person who controls, the persons who control the military, what am I saying? The person who controls the military is in fact Zhang Youxia. And everything else we hear are just noises. And Xi Jinping is merely a nominal chairman of the Central Military Commission. This friend also mentioned that the power within the CCP has now been turned to 3 party elders who were all born in the year 1942. But Mr. Cai didn't reveal their names for fear that the disclosure could affect them negatively. Cai's friend further stated that Xi Jinping has offended all political factions over the past decade. Excuse me. He has offended everyone in the past decade. The second generation, the third generation princelings, as well as party elites, all feel threatened. And during the third plenum last summer, a consensus was reached within the party that if Xi continued on his current path, everyone would face ruin. Therefore, it was deemed necessary to prevent his reappointment. As a result, these 3 elders were chosen or nominated to oversee the country's political transition. Mr. Tsai's friend also pointed out that within the CCP, there is genuine concerns about the various vested interest groups, fearing that in the post-Xi era, they might take control of China's political landscape. This is because over the decades of economic reform and opening up, these political elites and their networks have transferred assets worth up to 30 trillion US dollars out of China. Through overseas financial maneuvers, particularly their cooperation with financial giants on Wall Street, their total assets have now exceeded $60 trillion. Last year, the PLA's official newspaper published articles emphasizing collective leadership, but recently the military issued a new directive calling for continued. So now they have mixed signals. Sometimes they will publish articles calling for continued unity around Comrade Xi Jinping. Apparently, they say these are only noises to confuse us. His friend remarked, don't pay attention to this propaganda. These statements don't mean anything. The above is what Mr. Tsai's friend disclosed, or this is what Mr. Tsai disclosed in his program. He stressed that he's only reporting what he has heard and has no concrete evidence to verify these claims. So let's recap what the guy told him. Number one, Zhang Youxia is the de facto leader of the Chinese military. Number two, Xi Jinping is only a figurehead who remains in power to prevent the regime from falling apart. But he will step down no later than the end of the year. And number three, there are three individuals in charge, and their age is 82. Number four, the concern is the influence of the party elites and their enormous wealth parked outside China in the post-Xi era. So Mr. Tsai's disclosure indirectly confirmed previous whispers that we've heard that Xi Jinping suffered a medical emergency during the third plenum, and in his absence, Zhang Youxia invited party elders to the meeting where they built consensus among the leadership. It was during this time that Zhang Youxia gained control of the PLA and the party elders returned to the political scene. But the question is, who are the three party elders born in 1942? Well, two names were immediately recognized. Let me show you. There they are. So former CCP leader Hu Jintao and his premier Wen Jiabao, they were both born in 1942. So these two were immediately identified. But the identity of the third person remained a mystery. Upon further scrutiny, there's no living Politburo Standing Committee member born in 1942. However, there is one former Politburo member, not Standing Committee, but just Politburo member. His name is Wang Gang. He was a member of the 17th Central Politburo. He was also born in 1942. He retired from his role as the vice chairman of the CPPCC and may still be holding an honorary position as the co-president of the Family Planning Association. However, many doubt that he is the third figure in the leadership trio because he's really not somebody important at all. There's one individual, however, fits the profile, and that's Hu Deping, son of the former party secretary general Hu Yaobang. Here we go. I've told you about this guy. He was also born in the year of 1942. So the reason, let me tell you a little bit about him. So Hu Deping is currently a standing committee member of the CPPCC, and vice chairman of its economic committee. He's a princeling. So as a princeling, he's widely recognized or accepted within the party. So Hu Jintao and Wen Jiabao, neither of them is a princeling. So Hu Deping, his inclusion in this leadership trio legitimizes the leadership, right? So people generally believe that Hu Deping is the third 82-year-old who is running China right now. All right, so do I have a picture of all three of them? There you go. So these three. Now, not everyone accepts this claim, including Mr. Tsai himself. He remains skeptical, not because he doubts his friend's reliability, but because Hu Jintao and Wen Jiabao have been retired for over a decade and are now 82 years old. And it's difficult to imagine that they have returned to the political stage. And other arguments against this claim are, one, Hu Jintao had a little influence in the party. He was forcibly escorted out of the 20th Party Congress podium in front of the world's media. And number two, Hu Deping, despite his liberal political views, he has never been part of the CCP's core decision-making body. So he lacks political resources and has no power base. So the above arguments cast doubt on the claim that these three individuals represent the CCP's deep state, or the leadership that's actually calling the shots. However, I tend to believe this claim is credible, and here's my arguments. Number one, let's take a look at who are the legendary anti-Xi Jinping forces. The opposition, think about it. The Xi Jinping opposition must be led by someone who holds fundamentally different political views from Xi Jinping, right? And so Xi Jinping is on the left, and the Hu Jintao faction is on the right. They represent the reformists. And also in terms of seniority, the core figure of the anti-Xi Jinping faction would be Hu Jintao, because he's the only living former CCP leader. And he was also once a political benefactor of Xi Jinping. At the 18th National Congress in 2012, who completely handed over power to Xi and retired. 10 years later, at the 20th Party Congress, Xi Jinping eliminated all of Hu Jintao's people from the leadership team, forced him off the stage, and a year later, Li Keqiang died, right? So given this history, any anti-Xi faction would desperately want Hu Jintao on their side, period. And my second argument is, yes, Hu Jintao is old, and rumors suggest that he's in poor health. But Hu Jintao alone, we know, cannot take down Xi Jinping. Together with Wen Jiabao and Hu Deping, they can. As I said before, a trio consisting of a former party leader, a former premier, and a princeling whose father is a former party leader, and this princeling is also a personal friend of Xi Jinping. So this alliance forms a formidable opposition. And it doesn't matter if Hu Jintao is sick and old, and he doesn't need to do much. But as long as he's alive, as long as his name is on this ticket, shall we say, it's a formidable opposition. And my third argument is that the opposition must be led by someone outside the CCP's elite political lineage. Most princelings and their families have spent decades amassing wealth through their status and have engaged in various illicit activities. By contrast, Hu Jintao and Wen Jiabao were commoners, quote-unquote commoners, who rose to power as technocrats. So unlike princelings, they had to remain relatively clean to advance their political careers. This gives them a strong reputation, broader support, and protection from Xi Jinping's anti-corruption purges. Since they are less corrupt, Xi has fewer reasons to investigate them as a countermeasure. And number 4, of the 3, Wen Jiabao is the most visible and active. He may be the one doing, the most work, and his appearance at the National Day celebration banquet, I think on the last day of September, right before October 1st, when he was seated at the head table right next to Xi Jinping, underscores his political weight within the party. If Wen Jiabao were politically irrelevant, Xi Jinping would not have placed him in such a prominent position at the banquet. And my next argument is that the 3 form a natural political alliance, united by their shared vision for China. Premier Wen Jiabao has long been one of the most outspoken pro-reform CCP leaders. He has publicly emphasized the necessity of political reform, most notably during his visit to Washington, D.C. in 2010, when he stated in a speech that without political system reform, China's economic progress and social stability could not be sustained. He even reiterated this view in an interview with CNN. Hu Deping, the princeling, like Wen Jiabao, is one of the few princelings sharing this vision. He advocates political reforms. I say that he's probably one of the most open-minded princelings. And his father, Hu Yaobang, was widely recognized as one of the most open-minded, liberal-minded CCP leaders. So the family has this good reputation. And Hu Deping even published one of China's most outspoken magazines, Yanhuang Chunqiu, which was later shut down by Xi Jinping because of its outspokenness. So these 3 men share a common vision for China's future, making them a natural alliance. So with all that said, I think their path forward will not be smooth. The 3 party elders do not yet have full control over the political establishment. Xi Jinping remains the official leader and still issues directives and influences policies, and he cannot be removed immediately. Because they still need him, so he's still calling the shots, right? Because they need him to put on this facade of continuity. Additionally, the trio may be struggling to command the princelings and the party elites, whose $60 trillion offshore wealth gives them immense power. And this concern is valid, which is why the opposition remains so low-key, because they need time to build up or to build the next leadership team to replace the current one. And precisely because of this, the infighting within the party right now is quite intense. And that's why things are inconsistent. That's why we've seen state media, military media, sending mixed signals. It's because I think sometimes Xi Jinping is calling the shots, and sometimes this trio is calling the shot. And so that's why we're seeing very mixed messages. Now, beyond this analysis, there are more signs pointing to Xi Jinping's weakened grip. Just yesterday, Xi Jinping attended a Beijing event titled, it's called Outlining Important Thoughts on Party Building. Basically, it's one of those meeting or conferences that addresses the theoretical basis on strengthening party's leadership. Okay, that's what it is. Xi Jinping loves this type of conferences because his governance is based on strong party leadership, party building, right? So this type of event is typically hosted by the Central Propaganda, the Ministry of Central Propaganda, or the Ministry of Organization, which and these events are typically hosted by the ministers of those ministry or departments. So, and Xi Jinping would normally attend alongside key Politburo Standing Committee members such as Cai Qi. But this time, the strange thing happened. No Politburo member attended. At least we didn't see any names from state media. And this exclusion was not limited to the 7-member Politburo Standing Committee. I'm talking about the full 24-member Politburo was absent. Not a single Politburo member was present. And so this is highly unusual. Instead of having the meeting hosted by the ministers, by the Minister of Propaganda or the Minister of Central Organization, this event was hosted by the National Party Building Research Association, a research arm under the State Council. And attendees include representatives from provincial party building research associations, state-owned enterprises, and universities. There's no CCP officials, no senior CCP officials mentioned in the press release or the press reports. Now, we know Xi Jinping is famous for, bringing his officials to meetings, and large numbers of them. So where was everyone at this time? And this marks a significant downgrade in the caliber of events that Xi Jinping attends, and serves as a public declaration of his diminished status. Of course, the above is only my analysis. If the claim is true, if this claim of the entire claim of Xi Jinping losing power is true, then it perfectly supports my previous analysis that Hu Jintao's favorite mentee, Hu Chunhua, is likely the next leader of China. I made that conclusion last week without having this piece of information. But if this claim is true, then it complements that analysis. China's political system operates in secrecy, and no major decisions are ever made transparently. Due to the lack of transparency, any high-level political changes are usually settled behind closed doors before any official announcement is made. Until then, speculations, rumors, and whispers will continue to spread. All right, with that said, now let's do a survey questions. I'd like to ask you, so what do you think? Do you think Xi Jinping is still in charge of China? Vote 1 if you think the answer is yes. Vote 2 if you think the answer is no. If you're not sure, vote 3. All right, Chris, can you post the question? And I'm interested in seeing the results. Yeah, let's give it a few minutes. All right, that's all. That's all I have for you. Okay. All right, while people vote, let me go through. I see some color stickers. Let's see. Let me address people. Boyd R. Will Chinese have a chance for democracy after Xi Jinping, or would CCP never allow it ever? I think the CCP is not going to last. I think the CCP will end with Xi Jinping. China will have to adopt some form of democracy. I mean, it may not happen overnight, but I think China will be on its path to become a democratic nation. I think that's inevitable. There's no way this current system can continue. So I'm fairly, but I'm not saying that China will overnight become a democratic state like the United States or Taiwan. I don't think it will happen overnight. I think it will happen over a period of time, but it's going in that direction. Okay. Charles Womack. I keep hearing rumors that a lot of people born in the 1980s are dying from H1N1 and or COVID. What can you tell us about it? I was almost going to do a program on that tonight, but then I'm going to cover that on Thursday. Yes, you're right. The Chinese are discovering, the Chinese government released new census data recently, and someone did some analysis and find out that the mortality rate of people born in the 1980s is over 5%. So that means 1 in 20 people who were born in the 1980s have already died. The mortality rate is higher than people born in the 50s, 60s, or 70s. So people are panicking. People are saying, well, what has happened to this group? Because they're in their, 40s? People born in the 80s are now in their 40s, right? 40s? Yeah. And they're in their prime years. Why are they the ones? Why does this age group suffer such a high mortality rate? It's unthinkable. You know what I think? I think the mortality rate across all age groups are high. They're all high. I think the CCP tried to massage the data, and they inevitably left some holes. Because we know China's population, there's no way it's 1.4 billion. I said that it's around 800 million. China lost significant number of people during COVID. So in order to massage the data, I mean, the Statistical Bureau, people working there know that they don't have that many people, but they need to massage the data, right? So they need to gradually show the downward trend of Chinese population without revealing too much. So as they massage the data, I mean, those of you who have massaged the data know you're going to leave some holes somewhere, because something is not going to tie. And this is what happened. This is what happened. So they inadvertently left some numbers that are showing people a high mortality rate for this age group. But it's not just unique to this age group. It's unique to all age groups. Many of them, they have all died. So I think that's what happened. So focusing on why people born in the 80s died first or died more frequently is not a valid not a valid argument. But arguing how many people actually have died across all age groups during COVID is a more valid question. And what China's real population is a valid question. Because there's no way that people in their 40s died more than people in their 60s or 70s. I think it's just a data hole created somewhere when they massage the data. I mean, I know that. I'm a financial analyst. I know that you can leave some data that don't, some variances somewhere that don't tie, that don't make sense when you play with the data. I think this is what happened. But maybe Thursday I'll talk about that. But I already give you the answer. I mean, if I talk about it, it would be just showing you more data. I don't know if it's worth the time. We'll see. We'll see what happens on Thursday. Yeah, the way they did it is they knew how many people were born in the 1980s, right? The birth data. They added up all the birth data in the 1980s. And then they compare that to how many people who were born in the 80s are still alive today in the census. And they found they're missing by over 5.4%. So over 5% of the people are gone. The population is down by over 5%. That's how they found the discrepancy. Okay, here's a question from Steve Cam. Do you see a mass exodus from China in the transition after Xi's term comes to an end? fascinating program. Um, I think it may be no. I think I think now is the time that people try to escape, because if you go to Southeast Asia, there are a lot of Chinese. I mean, the ones who can afford to go to Europe or come to the United North America have already come here, and the ones who cannot afford to come to the West goes to Southeast Asia. Singapore is very expensive now. Even Vietnam has a lot of Chinese. Even the Vietnamese government is trying to stop the Chinese from coming over from the northern borders, because they will take the jobs in Vietnam. So I think when China transitions, I think the key question is how long that transition period will last, and how chaotic or tumultuous that period will be. If it's relatively stable and people have confidence in the new leadership, then I don't think a lot of people will want to leave. Instead, many people may want to return to China. Actually, Mr. Tsai said in his program, his friend told him that, hey, the day that you will return to China is approaching. So I'm very encouraged by that. Maybe the day that I can return to China is also approaching. So as you see, when China generally embraces democracy, many people will return to China. But of course, if that transition turns out to be highly tumultuous or chaotic, then more people may want to leave. So it all depends. So I think a lot of things are being done behind the scenes. We just don't see them. So in a way, it's not a bad thing. If they announce that Xi Jinping is out or he will be out, I don't know how people will react. Maybe it's not a bad thing. Maybe the market will do well. Maybe people have confidence in China, knowing that he will be gone. But that's a great question. Somebody asked me, will there be a meeting between Putin and Xi anytime soon? I don't think Putin wants to meet with Xi Jinping, although Xi Jinping may wants to meet with Putin. I mean, they had a call. Was it on the third anniversary of the war? But their statements released from the Chinese government and from the Kremlin, they're very different. Yeah, so the Russian is saying one thing, and then the Chinese is saying one thing. The Chinese is trying to hold on to brother Putin for the time being. I think China right now, because of this divided leadership, I think it's not very clear what their strategy is. I mean, if the claim is true that there is there are three 82-year-old running calling the shots behind the scene, with Xi Jinping being in the front, and it could be totally chaotic and inconsistent, because maybe they're in a dire situation that no one is really calling the shot, and it totally depends on who give what directives on what day. So I don't see any consistencies in China's foreign policy at this point, and that could be today's disclosure may be the reason why. If you follow Chinese politics, it's all over the place. They don't seem to know what they want. And I think that is the reason. And they're fighting, and obviously Xi Jinping is not going to give up his power so easily. So things are not going. I don't think things are going smoothly between them. All right, let's see. Drew H, did you see Laowai 86 video about every YouTuber put out videos against China is taking a huge viewership hit? He said China is using AI to mess up the channels of people who aren't pro-China. It's possible. I have seen, Chris Chappell, China Uncensored, also said that. I noticed a dip in my viewership and in my revenue. I definitely noticed that. But I think the best thing to do is keep focus. Don't lose your focus because of that. Because if I start to focus on that and not focus on the most important thing that I need to focus on, by analyzing the CCP, then they win. Then they score one because they distracted me. I refuse to be distracted. But on the other hand, I do need your support. I do need your support more than ever because because of the reduced viewership. Yeah. Anyways, my other channel, I'm trying to get my other channel to have enough views to start monetize. And I know my first 3 videos are very girly. Shall we say the topics are a little girly, but I'm producing some very masculine topics coming up. Stay tuned. You should subscribe to my channel. Chris, if you can copy the video links in the description or in this chat, I'd appreciate it. I will release a video this Thursday on UFOs. So yeah, and then I also have some in that channel, I will also do some political analysis. I'll talk about the bad feng shui of some presidential palace in the world. And it should be interesting to you. Anyway. Boycott China. Lovely. How does the CCP see Donald J. Trump and Putin's meeting in Saudi Arabia? Thank you always. The CCP panicked. Yeah, they if you look at their press statement following the phone call between Xi Jinping and Putin this Monday, was it Monday? On the 3rd anniversary of the war, the Chinese press statement is pretty much a copy. It's almost a copy. It's the same as the one they had on January the 17th, because the two, I think, had a call before Trump's inauguration. I think it was in January that the pair had a call, and the Chinese statement is very similar to the one from January. I think the Chinese isn't happy that Trump is trying to break up the alliance. I talked about this last week, so if you haven't watched my program, you can check that one out. I think it came out did the highlight come out yesterday? There's so many programs in my head, I don't even remember what I did. All right, seek the truth. What are your thoughts on the CCP's moving to bail out Wanke when they didn't help Evergrande or Country Garden? I think Wanke has a large CCP shareholding. No, I think that decision is purely random. I think there's no rhyme and reason why they backed why they want to bail Wanke versus Country Garden or Evergrande. I think it was just it was a decision made out of fear. They really fear the downfall of Wanke will be the last blow to the economy at this point. But at the time, a few years ago, they were still confident about the economy during the crisis of Evergrande, but they're not confident at all now. So I think it has nothing to do with who it is. It's purely the size of Wanke. If it falls, it's a serious blow to the economy. So it's reactive. The decision is purely reactive. Lei, do you think Xi and Putin will meet real soon? Well, they have already announced their meeting. The two leaders will visit each other's country in May, right? Was it in May? They will visit each other to attend the events celebrating the end of World War II. So Xi will go to Russia and Putin will visit China. They announced this immediately after the Russia-US talk in Saudi Arabia. So it's very obvious what they're trying to do. Lei, Sarah Helen, do you know if there's no problem at all with COVID anymore in China? No. Oh no, there's something going on in China. Watch my program on Saturday. There are serious casualties, and I covered that this Saturday. But the government called it influenza A, but people suspect it's a new variant of COVID because they say the symptoms are very similar, or some people's symptoms are very similar to COVID. All right. Okay, let's see. Okay, here's a question forwarded by Chris from Jagpreet Batra. We're seeing China-India relations are getting better. Is this just a temporary phase, or will this relationship further improve? If you really understand how CCP operates, there's no rhyme and reason. They're just I think they realize with Trump's winning the White House, they realize the geopolitical landscape for them ahead is far more precarious than the previous 4 years. So they're trying to make less enemies and trying to stay out of troubles, unnecessary troubles. And that's why they're trying to make peace with India. But then again, their military, the vessels, the navies are in the waters near Australia and New Zealand recently, right? So I think that could be a political move to cover up the fact that Xi Jinping has lost power, has lost control of the military. I think they need to do something. They need to do something. They need to put out something to show that, to cover up the fact that he has lost control, because neither side, even the trio, don't want the outside world to believe that Xi Jinping is no longer calling the shot. So they may, act egregiously to put on that facade that Xi Jinping is still calling the shot. Angry Bear, the day after the election, my YouTube feed changed. I hope it's for the better, no? CCs. Well, thank you for the generosity. CC. CSS? Sexes? All right, that's a very unique name. I'll certainly remember that. Okay, here's one from Kazmira Flanagan. Love seeing you live. Hard to catch even with notifications active. Thumbs up. Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad that you made it. I have bad hair day. Lei has a crazy head of hair. All right. All right. Is that all? No, I have some questions. Galia. Lei, something in the system does not allow me to send you donations or stickers. How I can do this? Well, that's awful. I don't know how to do that. Can people help her? Can people help Galia how to send me super stickers? Because I don't know how to do that. I have not sent myself stickers. I would appreciate that. But thank you. Thank you, Galia, for the thought, even if you cannot do it. Texas Panda. Oh, that's not addressed to me. Netflix Foreign. Will you cover the哪吒 2 on the other channel? But is it worth it? I mean, the movie is awful. I mean, it completely, the character哪吒is not the real哪吒that we know. I mean, the哪吒character is like an atheist哪吒. It's like a communist Red Guard哪吒in the movie. It's such a brainwash propaganda movie. But the Chinese seem to love that. And also, the movie is deadly precisely because there are a lot of people who claim that they got sick after seeing the movie, because there's an outbreak in China. And with the movie theaters so crowded with people, many people I've seen on social media claim that they got sick or their kids got sick after they went to see哪吒. So why would CCP push all the schools and organizations and even military units to see the movie? It's purely because they want to break the box office record. They want to claim that this is the most popular movie in the world. They want to break the box office record. And it's a patriotic act to go see the movie哪吒. So a lot of schools and organizations bought tickets for their employees and students to go see it. But this mass gathering across the country is causing outbreaks. It's bad. All right. All right. Let me see. Questions? Ken, Lan, with the current situation in international relations, how do I see the future of Hong Kong? Hong Kong will become more and more like mainland China. Its economy just tanked. It's very sad. The Pearl of the Orient, is that what it's called? It's lost. It's no longer the financial center of the Far East. It has lost that status to Singapore. It's very sad for Hong Kong. It's becoming more and more like mainland China. Yeah. All right. That seems to be all. Oh, here's a question forwarded by Chris from Robert's Random Stuff. Hi, my question is, if the CCP was to end, would the top party members face crimes on humanity? Well, who's going to sue them? Who's going to prosecute them? Right? Who's going to prosecute them? The new leadership? It's possible, but it depends on who. I think eventually they will. I think all the atrocities, all the crimes committed by the Chinese Communist Party will be brought to light. Chinese people, will seek justice, but I think it may take some time. I don't think the trio that we just talked about have the mindset of suing their own people. I don't think they have the mindset. That's my view, but it doesn't mean that the next leadership will not have that mindset. And I think people will demand it. People will certainly demand it. Yeah. But that's a good question. I haven't thought that far ahead yet. Oh, the poll result, 31, 27, 42. Okay, this is a very rational, careful group. That's good. 42, the majority, not the majority, but the largest group believes that it's too hard to tell. 31 followed by 31 believe that Xi Jinping is not running the show, and 27% believes that he still is. That's what I envisioned. It's hard to tell. It is hard to tell. Even with all the analysis I presented, I still think it's hard to tell. So I agree. I think great minds think alike. All right, that's all for tonight. I will see you in 2 days. Thank you. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.